Hi, I'm Jason DeLessio with HYCU, Senior Systems Engineer for the Americas. I cover basically anything East Coast, Fed, SLED, and enterprise space. So welcome. Thanks for coming to my session here, making migration backup recovery simple, right, with the most native to Nutanix solution, which is HYCU. So a little bit of history here about HYCU. I've been here about 3 years now. I'm loving the direction of the company, the vision, moving into the public cloud space, and just the fresh ideas that we're able to come up with and really provide a valuable solution to our end users. We were born in Boston. We've been in the backup industry for about 25 plus years. So a lot of deep integration into many tool sets that are used today in the industry. But overall, 70 plus countries around the globe that we support today with over 1 million satisfied customers and more to come. So moving on here, we also have some strategic partner alliances, obviously with Nutanix. We were their Innovation Partner of the Year, I believe in 2018. And then also we have some Azure and GCP strategic alliances as well, which you'll find out in the near future. Now, moving on, typical backup solutions, right? When we talk about them versus us or what's different and what's fresh, how do you guys do backups different today than what was done 10, 15 years ago? And what we typically find is obviously the legacy three-tier environments are just very expensive, number one, but two, they're very difficult to manage. It causes a siloed effect. You have talent or resource constraints where if a certain individual leaves the team, it could take weeks or months to train someone up to the level of aptitude to be able to support a very large, infrastructure, as well as just the fact that there's proprietary capabilities or proprietary hardware or software. Many of these backup companies will charge you or make you maintain maintenance for 5 to 7 years for compliance reasons. And you may never actually need that data, but you're paying for that service because the data is basically proprietarized on their hardware and you have to have their maintenance to be able to perform a restore. We traditionally don't look at that and say that, that's a good business practice. One thing that HYCU does is we do not hold your data for ransom. We do not proprietize the data in any form. We do allow you to perform restoration 5, 10 years, even if you're no longer using our product. So we like to showcase that and tout that ability that this is something that we really take pride in, is to make sure that you have the best tool set available to you. Now, building this slide out, there's other features around other legacy infrastructures. So some of the products that we see today are trying to move into the cloud space, and we call them cloud washed because they're not truly native to the actual cloud platform, right? So whether it's GCP, Azure, AWS, a lot of these tool sets simply just take the on-prem solution that they typically sell for inside the data center, and then they simply deploy it in the cloud. What does that bring to the end user? A lot of cost. So basically what it is these solutions are chewing up CPU, chewing up, resources, licensing, and as well as capacity. And they very well may have not backed up a single VM or leveraged that tool set, and they're paying for it yet day one, right? So we like to call those cloud washed. With HYCU, we have a cloud-based solution that is 100% a software as a service. You can subscribe to us and not back a single VM up and not be charged a single dollar or penny. Then lastly, we are purpose-built, right? This is exactly where I was going with our native to Nutanix. Simply, we were born in the Nutanix footspace, and now we've digressed into GCP and Azure, and more to come with AWS in the near future. So the traditional backup architecture, right? When you look at the big grand scheme of things, many of the solutions out there are very complex. They have a lot of capabilities, but yet they're just so dynamic in the sense that you have agents to deploy everywhere, proxy servers, management servers, reporting servers, even the fact that you have different media agents that are out there. Then it comes time to when you have to do an upgrade. You're running Windows on a majority of these platforms. These Windows applications or OSs have to be updated. They have to be patched and maintained. In addition to that, right, they're also most susceptible to ransomware. We all know that Windows is the highest targeted OS out there, that simply enough, I've had several customers that have gone through ransomware attacks, and HYCU has recovered their data for them. Our controller, our specific HYCU controller, is running CentOS version 8. It's a very hardened Linux. So therefore, we have not been penetrated, or nor do we feel that we will, through ransomware. So we're very proud of that as well. So it's another feature set that we look at that says, we're really trying to make life simple, and we're It's very, very simple to deploy, and we're not a very costly solution because of all of the resources that have to manage these environments, maintain these environments, upgrade them, and also just in general, the cost of the licensing alone can be significantly more expensive, right? Which is obviously the last bullet that pops up here. So the difference here is why HYCU, right? When you look at it and you're like, you guys are new, I don't see what's so fresh about how you're doing things. What's really the difference between that? And what's really cool about HYCU is the simple fact that we're a virtual appliance. We just simply deploy in the hyperconverged world, in the hypervisor, right? We don't require agents whatsoever. So what really makes us different is we simply install as a virtual appliance. With that, we have integration into the API stack. So whether it's Nutanix HV, Nutanix ESX, legacy 3-tier vCenter, or physical servers. We simply can ingest all of these VMs. We auto-synchronize with the clusters. So again, no VM left behind. Think about this. So when you deploy HYCU, within minutes, you can be backing up your VMs. But even once you set it up, 3-4 months from the road, you can actually ingest brand new VMs. HYCU will auto-discover that VM, and you can even have tagging or labels through vCenter or through Prism Central, and HYCU can automatically assign it to a specific policy of your choice, right? That's a powerful tool set where a single controller can actually manage multiple entities, multiple clusters, multiple hypervisors, all from a single controller. So, all in one capacity is what we like to say. And then also the sense that it's a very cost-effective solution. Why? We're not driving proprietary hardware. We actually are a software-only solution. We leverage targets such as like Nutanix Mine, Nutanix Objects, any IP-based storage array, whether it's SMB, NFS, or iSCSI. And lastly, any of the major cloud providers, right? So we really give you a storage agnostic approach. Maybe you can repurpose something in your data center. Maybe you want to find a much more lower cost option, or you're really worried about ransomware and you want to focus on maybe Nutanix Objects or Nutanix Mine. All of these capabilities we provide to you. And this is where, when I said earlier, native to Nutanix, we are truly like a flip of a switch. You can simply install us within minutes, add a target within seconds, and start instantly backing up your VMs. So truly, we are the only native to Nutanix solution. Now, what's also cool about HYCU is we have a patented process, which allows us to discover applications or look for signatures of applications. What does this mean? Well, the end user themselves, they can simply just install HYCU, deploy credentials within the infrastructure, and then once we discover all of the VMs, we tell you, hey, Mr. Customer, there's these VMs that have all of these applications, whether it's SQL, Oracle, Active Directory, Exchange, Postgres, right? We're the only product today that can back up SAP HANA on Nutanix. So there's a lot of deep integration that goes on here, whether it's leveraging volume groups on Nutanix for clustered application or SQL, maybe it's even point-in-time recovery for Exchange with DAGs, right? So all of this integration really reflects how deep our software communicates within the Nutanix stack, but also with the applications themselves, right? So moving on here. 0 agents to deploy. Typically, when I perform my demos and I show the fact that we're agentless and I have to provide a list of VMs, typically when I show the application tab, a lot of customers are like, again, there's no agents to do this. And it's like, no, sir, absolutely not. We provide the framework to do any type of custom homegrown application or database, right? So all of the connectivity is there. All you have to do is plug in a script or any type of freeze or thawing capability on an application, and HYCU will instantaneously adapt to the environment, right? So that's where we're truly trying to show you that we care about your data and we also care about your applications, because most backup software is really, you have to either purchase an agent or deploy another type of agent, and it becomes a little bit more convoluted at that point. Is it really worth all the time and effort to manage all of this accessory componentry, right? So lastly, rapid recovery. We're the only tool set today that basically leverages snapshots for backup, but also leverages the snapshots for restoration, which provides you instantaneous recoverability. The data resides in the cluster for instant restores, but the data is always copied to a target. So the snapshots are never a single point of failure. So I want to make sure that the mindset is set that we are truly an enterprise-ready solution. We provide feature sets that nobody else in the market can provide, especially for AHV. All right, here's some of the other capabilities we have. Any remote office, branch offices, basically HYCU is one of the only tool sets out there that native to Nutanix uses Nutanix's native protection domain replication. So what does that mean? I said a lot of words there. So Nutanix offers a snapshot-based replication technology. And simply enough, if you have a hub and spoke data center where the core data center is your hub and the spokes are all of the remote branches, whether they're in local sites or sites around the world, HYCU can live in a centralized data center and back up all of these remote sites. So therefore, we're leveraging the DR replicas. You don't have to send the data twice. What does that mean? We're not impacting the remote sites with clunky backup software or something that's very heavy that's going to load down or tax the resources on this already taxed small environments, right? So it really allows us to take advantage and evangelize the fact that Nutanix offers this great service. Why would you not leverage it and use it as well for your backup infrastructure? Many backup tool sets today sell as an additional feature set in their tool set replication, snapshotting, cloning, right? Why would you buy that twice, essentially? You already own it in the Nutanix infrastructure. That's what hyperconvergence kind of came into play, is not everything is busy all the time. So leverage those tool sets, leverage those assets that you already purchased and use them to your best advantage versus buying another product, right, to leverage the same technology you already own. That's simply going to the car dealership and buying two vehicles because you're afraid to get a flat tire. That's absurd, right? Why would I do that? I want to leverage my tool sets that I own in the infrastructure, and I can take advantage of those at any time and provide instant recovery to my data center. That seems like a no-brainer to me. So moving on here, simply enough, recover anywhere. I can take that corporate data center backup and restore not to just site A, but I can restore to site C. I can restore to site F. It doesn't matter. HYCU has that deep integration where if we see all of the clusters that we are protecting, we can perform restoration to any of those remote sites. Even another beneficial factor here is I can restore from AHV to ESX. I can restore ESX to AHV. It does not matter the hypervisor. And that's another valuable tool set that HYCU really comes into play to allow customers to have migration capabilities, not even for just installing to Nutanix platform, where we can back up a physical server and restore it to ESX or AHV on a Nutanix cluster. That's also another powerful tool set. So overall, review of remote robo, right, branch office, simple deploy, native to Nutanix replication, cut your bandwidth constraints because you're not doing a forced backup where you're saturating the network overnight. Simply enough, we take the most recent backup that was already replicated to us, and instant recovery anywhere. That's a very powerful statement, right, to move on. So next, we also do Nutanix files, right? So we are basically the only product that truly leverages Nutanix change file APIs. So what we do is it's a CFT API. Nutanix and HYCU, we co-develop these APIs together. With that said, we are the only product that does a 100% incremental file system backup. This is a powerful statement, meaning I don't have to walk the entire directory tree every single time I perform a backup. All right. So this is very powerful in the sense that we have a customer on the East Coast in the United States, and no product was successfully able to back up their files environment. These guys have hundreds and hundreds of nodes, petabytes, billions of files on this Nutanix infrastructure. All incumbent backup softwares failed. They finally tried HYCU. We were able to successfully back up that environment within 5 business days. We performed a full backup. And today we do 7-minute incremental backups on the daily, right? So every day our backups are efficient. They run like a champ, and it's truly a definitive product that sets us apart from anyone else. Because of this, we integrate directly at the file server level. So therefore, it's 100% agentless. We're also using the incremental snapshot capability built into the Nutanix toolset. Zero impact to the file servers, right? And then secondly, limitless scale. And also the fact that we can load balance by adding additional controllers to the very large file systems to be able to catalog these files and provide granular recovery instantly back to the end users. Pretty powerful statement there. So now, moving on here, what else can we do? we also want to target on the fact that what's new is Nutanix Mine, right? It was announced last year at .next. We supported it day one when Nutanix announced .next in Anaheim, California. So what's really unique in this sense is now that Nutanix Objects is also released, and it's a major contender for the backup space for secondary storage. So a lot of people say, well, what's so important about secondary storage? Well, when you really think of it, 25% of data that's out there is probably the most used data. But I'd say 75, if not even more, percentage of that data is literally invisible to the end users. It's sitting on some very long, cheap and deep storage. Some of it's on tape. Some of it could be sitting in a data lake somewhere. And this is something that's very costly to many, many customers. But that data is vulnerable. Doesn't mean that it's accessible that it's inaccessible. Ransomware can attack that data. So now there's been a transition or a migration from the traditional mindset of just block services for data, but to move more to an object-based type storage platform, which Nutanix has a phenomenal platform with Nutanix Objects. We're able to simply deploy with Nutanix WORM capabilities. Its scalability is incredible. The fact that it's, the Nutanix platform itself speaks tremendously. HYCU is so lightweight that we can actually deploy and live on a Nutanix mine or in the Nutanix objects clusters. HYCU is also uniquely the only tool set that can natively write directly to Nutanix object storage, right? So that's a big, big difference from our competitors. As you can see, the true integration across the Nutanix platform is that we are always the first to do this, And when Nutanix releases a new code, we're typically the first to support those new feature sets or those new capabilities, typically within 30 to 60 days max, right? Where some of our competitors have taken a year to a year and a half to support some of the features that have been released on Nutanix. So also, a couple other things. I mentioned the worm earlier. This is very important for a lot of customers worried about ransomware. Like I said, I mentioned that we did have several clients that were impacted. HYCU was able to restore all of their data. But the hard part for them to swallow was they did lose the target data because unfortunately they were leveraging another protocol, SMB, wasn't very well protected. Had access to AD, so it was the same user that was compromised. His account had credentials to the SMB share. With Nutanix Objects and S3 WORM, that wouldn't have happened, right? We could have enabled the S3 WORM lock. The data would have never been compromised or even accidentally deleted or maliciously deleted or encrypted, right? So it's definitely something to look into if ransomware is definitely a focus in your business, right? So now, moving on. HYCU also has the ability, because we perform these application consistent backups, we have the ability to migrate workloads into multiple cloud stacks, right? So today, Azure and GCP are the two cloud stacks that we support. We can leverage any cloud as a target, right? But this is a very unique capability in the event that we can provide app consistent migration from your on-prem into any of these public clouds that are listed here. So the migration aspect is, maybe the use case is I have a test dev or a Q&A, or I want to do some benchmark testing on a new application or a new database. Take the backups. HYCU backs it up locally to an on-prem target. Doesn't have to, but typically most customers have an on-prem target. But we also send a second copy to the cloud. And with the integration to our cloud providers, we have the API access because we're also natively running HYCU as a software as a service in these cloud stacks. So simply HYCU can integrate and talk directly to the cloud stacks to where we can spin a VM up from its most recent backup in Azure or GCP, right? This is a huge advance in that public cloud space to where now HYCU has the ability to spin a VM up from its backup and also back it up from a single pane of glass in that cloud while it's running. And then lastly, spin it back down to on-prem. Right? That is a powerful tool set that no one really is offering today with a seamless transition of a single pane of glass management, right? Now, moving on here, cost-efficient disaster recovery, right? So when I say this, it's truly DR as a service. With this capability, you can be backing up your local on-prem data, but also keeping a copy in the cloud. And if you don't have the capability of having a true DR site where you're paying for those resources all the time, in a hot standby mode, HYCU has the ability to simply allow the backup space to be in the cloud, but at the time of need, you can simply spin those resources up and only pay for the capacity that was consumed while you were performing your backups. Once you spin those resources up, then you're paying for the compute and the server resources while you're running in that cloud. But also when you're done, simply HYCU backs it up and restores back to on-prem when you've recovered your site, right? So it's a very powerful tool set, and really no one else out there can provide that seamless transition between on-prem and multi-cloud support. So now, one other point we like to focus on here is simply our customers are happy, right? Very much like Nutanix, they've done a phenomenal job with their customer support and their service with their NPS, Net Promoter Score. Sorry. As you can see, our Net Promoter Score is trending at 91 today. And one other fact to kind of talk about is Wendy Pfeiffer, Nutanix CIO. She always has some wonderful things to say about us. And here's one of her tweets that she's posted in the past, where HYCU received the customer service or customer success award, right, for last year. And I apologize, I murdered that name. But overall, there's our enthusiastic CEO, Simon Taylor, accepting that award. And like I said, Nutanix themselves chose HYCU to be their backup provider, right? They didn't choose any of our competitors. They feel that we truly have the deepest integration across the entire platform. And we're servicing 2 data centers, over 5,000 VMs running protection domain replication, remote site, all of these crazy capabilities. And these are just some of the things that we like to talk about. I had a customer in North Carolina here in the United States that has many, many sites around the world. He's running AHV. He didn't even realize that he really should be protecting this environment. He had no way of restoring these sites if he lost any data. So simply enough, when it comes down to the grand scheme of things, one of his quotes he said to us once HYCU came in the door, and he said, "Wow, I just realized I'm running naked and afraid, and I didn't even know it." So once he's seen HYCU and the power of HYCU and the capabilities there, he immediately, bought HYCU, and now he's a very happy customer. And I'm not going to read through the rest of these quotes. I'm sure you guys can take a look at them. But there's just many, many customers out there that have been, basically talking, "Hey, HYCU's been great for me. It saved me a ton of money, and it's just so easy and simple to deploy." So moving on here, just a kind of a refresher. So obviously HYCU has the best alignment on Nutanix across the entire infrastructure, deeply embedded on all of the different protocols, whether it's ESX AHB, Nutanix files, Nutanix objects, volume group support, Nutanix Mine. I mean, the list goes on. And as near sync and everything else gets even better, even Xi, HYCU is going to have a finger in all of those different positions, right? So true thing to think about is if you're truly looking at a Nutanix data center and you're serious about either ESX or AHB, it doesn't matter to us. We will be the best tool set for you to be successful with your backups and your data protection. So a couple of key takeaways here, For one, make migration, backup, and recovery simple, right? With the native for Nutanix solution, and that's HYCU. The intelligence built into our tool set for application protection, right? The application awareness, the ability to provide compliancy reports, the ability to tell you, "Hey, Mr. Customer, I can give you guaranteed RTO," which means I can tell you how fast and how quickly we could restore this data, right? That's another important message that no other backup software out there can provide guaranteed RTO. So that's another tool set here. And lastly, the power of the Nutanix platform. Everything that Nutanix offers out there, HYCU supports, and we're proud of that. And we want to keep that trend, right? So hopefully you guys you see the value in that and you give us a test drive. So today out here in the market space, we have the HYCU test drive that you can sign up for. And there's other links here that you can click on. We offer the free terabyte of HYCU protection for Nutanix files, just as Nutanix offers the free terabyte for Nutanix files. Also 10 VMs for free for Nutanix objects, right? So these are 2 features that you can go out there and try today, especially leverage the Nutanix test drive. I think you'll see a lot of value in it, and also get to see how simple and easy HYCU is to deploy and also use on a day-to-day basis. Thank you again. I'm Jason D'Alessio. I hope this session was valuable to you, and I also hope that we talk to you in the near future. Take care.